So, Vevor sent me one of these ultrasonic cleaners. This is the 30 liter, the really big one. This is going to be one of those things that's going to be really handy to have in the shop. Be sure to follow all of the admonitions. Would have been a really handy thing when I was doing the hacksaw restoration. Man, that's really dirty already. Or when I was going through the transfer case for the Jeep. What, you don't keep your transfer case in a file cabinet? I'm not working on any projects at the moment that really need anything cleaned, so I figure we'll just look around, see what we can find, and have some fun with this thing. Maybe I did need to clean this. I'm going to throw some simple green in there. As far as I can interpret the instructions that came with this, the primary cleaning action is caused by cavitation, forming little bubbles on the surface of the part. These little bubbles are what loosen up all the dirt and grime and grease and nastiness you want to get rid of. I think I'm going to let that heat up a bit more and give it another round. Of course, the first thing you do is lube everything up, get it oily again, but I'd say that cleaned up really well. I should probably stone that. Of course, my stones are pretty well crudted up from stoning things. We'll throw in these diamond wheels as well. I found it was helpful to flip things over between rounds because anything loose doesn't really fall off the top. That didn't get the stones totally clean, but they're a heck of a lot better than they were. This is fun and all, but I feel like grimy nuts and bolts and random Jeep parts, transmissions, that's the kind of thing you expect me to clean in this thing. I previously sandblasted and painted this, but it had some residual oil in it and just abrasive from sandblasting. I did a really good job of cleaning all of that out. Let's try some of the things you might not expect to go in an ultrasonic cleaner, like some tools with wooden handles. Of course, the wood tends to float, so I need some weights on some of them. That did a pretty good job on those chip brushes. It's probably worth throwing them in once in a while. The screwdriver needs a little bit of oil on the handle now, but that's nice and clean. These files had some varnish or polyurethane on them. They didn't really do great cleaning up, but the file is nice and clean. Hammer, that handle's cleaner. It's still broken though. Plastic handle, that came out nice. This experiment, not particularly useful, but I could see this being good if I have some salvaged wood, like an old pallet that has some dirt and sand on it. Clean up those pieces of wood before I run it through the planer or the table saw. Not really expecting much out of this experiment, but what happens if you throw some shop rags in there? Ran those through the laundry. They're not really a whole lot cleaner than they normally get. They're a little more absorbent, but that probably has more to do with soaking in degreaser for a while. The hose for my shop vac developed a pretty gross buildup of oil, metal chips, and other dirt in it. I don't know how else you're supposed to clean inside a hose. That didn't get super clean. It's better than it was, but having the weight and the heat on there kind of kinked the hose a little bit. Hose has some holes in it too, so probably just time for a new hose. This thing's starting to get pretty grungy, so time to clean it out. I know some guys will do like a sous vide style, put all their parts and cleaner in a Ziploc bag and then throw it in. Yeah, I just like throwing stuff in and dealing with the mess later. Been doing some work on my truck, and I've got an EGR tube that's pretty sooted up and an intercooler hose. I'm going to try these with just water and see how that goes. Definitely took some stuff off with just water, but not quite the result I'm going for. Well, the parts are nice and clean, but the water is pretty gross. Here's the EGR tube. That looks nice. And I think it would be pretty remiss here if I didn't just throw in some crusty junk I found in the river. The parts that had some iron concretions on it didn't really do much, but that stuff's pretty tough, so not a big surprise there. It might have taken off some of the loose flaky rust, but not a whole lot. Cleaned up this brass valve a little bit, at least now you can tell it's brass, but it didn't really do anything to the rusty bits on it. Probably the most interesting one out of these is this one. I had this soaking in some evaporest previously, and it had that sort of blackish buildup on it. Here's what it looked like before. But it took that pretty much right off. So I think of all of the experiments I've done, in this video of a guy just cleaning random stuff, I think that was probably the most interesting and maybe useful thing I've found out. So, final verdict on this one, I like it. It's not magical, but it is a heck of a lot better than a 5-gallon bucket with some degreaser in it. Having said that, there are a few things I don't like about it. The heater takes a while to heat up, and it turns the heater off at the end of the cleaning cycle. So, at the end of the cleaning cycle, you need to make sure that you turn the heater back on to actually get it to come up to temperature. The other one is the noise that it makes. Rather annoying. But overall, I'm really happy to have this. I'm going to put it to use on a lot of different projects. And if you want to see what I do with it, stick around.